Welcome, everyone. This is session 14, Community Level Child Protection and Localization. We're really pleased to have you all with us today. My name is Laura Lee. I'm a Senior Associate at Protect On Foundation. I'll be facilitating today with Riyad. Riyad, please introduce yourself as well.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on where you are. My name is Riyad. I'm the Executive Director of Huras Network. It's a Syrian national NGO, and I will be helping Laura today facilitating this session.
Great, thank you. So today we have three incredible content leads who are here to share with you today and lead us in some engaging discussion. They will not only be sharing about their innovative work, but also they are ready to ask critical questions and move the conversation forward. What does it take to move towards meaningful localization? And what concrete actions will different groups of actors take? What concrete actions will each of us take to really move towards localization? And so today we have three content leads with us. Faridah Luanda from the Global Refugee Youth Network will be speaking about refugee youth-to-youth approaches to advance localization and accountability and strengthen community-based child protection initiatives. Belkys Herrera from World Vision International will be speaking about first aid art, an expressive arts approach to building resilience among adolescents in Venezuela. And Abba Yusuf Tijjani from Grow Strong Foundation is with us from Nigeria, speaking about a community-based approach to child protection intervention in the conflict-affected region of Northeast Nigeria. Over to you, Riyad.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know, like my neighbors have decided to do some construction now. So I hope you can hear me well. And if not, please, Laura, feel free to take the parts that I'm going to say. We'll try to make this session today as interactive as possible. So we will have different mentees, polls, and discussions. So we will go to the first mentee for today, and to kickstart the session, we want you to express and tell us what comes to your mind when you hear the word localization. So you can use a word or a phrase, and you can do that through the links that are being shared now in the chat. And then we will see the results here on the screen. So feel free to jump to the link and share one word or a phrase about localization. Meaningful engagement, shift of mindset, allowing a shift of power. Well, I'm hearing shift of power a lot around localization. Partnership, ownership, it's a great one. Shared decision-making, leading role given to local organizations, coordination, respect and inclusion of local knowledge, shift of power, funding shift. So those are really great. Keep sharing. And if you're facing any difficulties with Menti, feel free to share in the chat. Yes. Well, keep those words in mind, so we can use them and see how they would reflect during the discussions in the breakout rooms. And minding the time, I'll go back to you, Laura.
Thank you, Riyad. Great. So then we will shift to our content leads in just one moment. We just wanted to remind everyone about the Alliance strategy and that this is part of strategic priority 2, transforming how child protection works in humanitarian action focused on localization. This really brings up key questions. How do we truly transform this? What kind of examples can we draw on? What movements are happening that we can build on? So we really do want to use this space to ask some critical questions, and anything that's learned in this session, anything that goes on jam boards and the last activity will be taken into account and used to move towards operationalizing the strategy. So now I'd like to introduce you to our first content lead. We're privileged to have Faridah with us. Faridah Luanda is a 24-year-old refugee from Democratic Republic of Congo who lived at Kyakatu Refugee Settlement, Uganda for 5 years and recently resettled to live in Stockholm, Sweden. Through her journey, she founded Division Group, a refugee youth-led organization that unites and transforms refugee youths, girls, women's lives through music, dance, drama, and education and training. She's now working as a member of the leadership team and as the coordinator for gender and diversity with the Global Refugee Youth Network, a refugee youth-led organization that facilitates and supports young refugees to develop their capacity to help one another, lead initiatives to respond to their community's needs, and advocate for the changes that they feel are important. So we really look forward to hearing from you, Faridah. Welcome.
Thank you, Laura, for a great introduction. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. As they introduced me, I just jump directly. I want to share my experience. I would like to start with my experience as a young person and a refugee leading child protection work at the local level, and as a mother myself at a young age. A child, and to go through a lot of challenges, equipped me to deal with various challenges, dealing with children and young people in humanitarian setting, e.g. refugee communities. Many children lost their parents and siblings. Some witnessed killings and more experienced psychological, physical, and sexual abuse. Handling such cases requires patience, love, above all, lived experience. Next slide, please. What is GREEN? In January 2021, together with other young refugees with experience working at the local level, we formed the Global Refugee Youth Network, or GREEN. The aim of GREEN is to support young refugees to develop their capacity and strength, expand their networks, develop research skills, and build relevant evidence-based programming. GREEN is a refugee youth-led organization, which is, we call it RIRO, that supports young refugees to develop their capacity, empower themselves, help each other, and lead initiatives to respond to their communities' needs and advocate for the changes they feel are important. GREEN's objectives. Next slide, please. Next slide. So our objectives as GREEN is to strengthen refugee youth leadership and youth-led organizations, RIROs, at the local level, advance refugee youth-led policy, advocacy to amplify refugee youth voices, and also to develop refugee youth research skills, establish a sustainable, independent refugee youth-led organizations. Why does localization need to include refugee youths? Next slide. Young people play a really important role. We are able to address challenges faced by our communities because we are speaking and acting from our own experience. We know what we are talking about. We come from the same cultural norms, so we can speak from a place of deep understanding. Young people are fast responders and the sustainable long-term support 24/7. The local groups bridge the gap between the community and humanitarian actors. Young people are well skilled and understand what is happening in their community. Even if they are not highly educated, they can develop the skills to plan and program activities. Young people took action, demonstrated their ability to deliver and respond to the needs of their communities, especially to many vulnerable girls and child mothers. Excuse me. They need to be listened to in their own words and in their own voices, because no one can interpret and speak to your pain and bring that change in you from outside. Young people reach a wider audience in their communities as both providers of assistance and humanitarian actors. The aim here is to ensure that the localization agenda can be carefully contextualized, taking note of the diverse histories. However, as mentioned above, for this contribution to the meaningful and effective, young people are often the first providers of assistance in contexts of displacement. Before I go, before I go further, I want to hear from everyone. Many of you, you are working with or within refugee communities. Can you share with us, what do you think? What do you think are the challenges that young refugees face to manage small child protection projects? We would love to hear from you, all of you. They can share the question through the Mentimeter. You can add your answer or your comment through the Mentimeter. The producer will help us to do so and to share the link in the chat. We have 3 minutes to hear from the audience what you think are the challenges that young refugees face to manage small child protection projects in your location or in your communities. You can raise your hand. I don't know if our moderator can maybe collect me from there. You can raise your hand, or maybe you can follow up the Mentimeter being posted in the chat, and then you can add your comment or answer. We would love to hear from you, all of you, and also learn from each other. Thank you.
So Faridah, you can see some answers coming on the screen there, and
Okay.
Musa has his hand up as well.
Yeah, funding shortages. Yes, I'm seeing more comments are coming. Also understanding the new context, raising their abilities, lack of funding, short-term funding, not long-term. Yes. Yes, acceptance of issues from other members in the community, also inadequate support and mentorship. Yes, we have different comments. Answers, difficult to receive funds without a bank account, a lot of more. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the answers because all the answers are right. We have the right answers. And I'm happy that everyone here is working in the refugee community, or they are within in the refugee communities, because these are things affecting us. So going back to the RIROs, Green has been working to strengthen refugee youth-led organizations. Thank you so much. I think the producer is going to take over all those comments and the answers. Thank you, the participants. So Green has been working to strengthen refugee youth-led organizations, RIROs, including groups that are and are not formally registered, as they mentioned, without bank accounts, not registered. And then we started by mapping the RIROs using our extended networks and sending out a survey to identify them and understand their needs. We have done a lot to facilitate networking amongst RIROs. We started a WhatsApp group, and we maintain and facilitate constructive discussions amongst the different RIROs and refugee leaders aged 15 to 30 years. And this supports them to share knowledge, skills, and information, and also opportunities with each other. We also provide capacity building related to leadership, project management, networking, advocacy, communication, research, and other skills that they identify as important to their work. In August 2021, we issued our first call for proposals. Green called a call for proposals from refugee youth-led organization and set up a mechanism and a process to make and manage small grants to refugee youth-led organizations at the local level. Next slide, please. So how Green responding to the challenges and the needs by establishing a mini grant process. I would like to talk a bit more about how we developed the funding mechanism to support small projects developed and led by the refugee youth-led organizations. We see this as a way to promote localization and support refugee youth to take action in their communities. We put a lot of time into developing the call for proposals and making it accessible to all small community-based groups, even if they are not registered. We supported refugee youth leaders to apply, to refine their projects ideas, and to document implementation. And the whole team has been involved in this and has supported it in different ways. We check in on the RIROs to support them to troubleshoot and to help them with documentation and reporting requirements overall. We have funded 22 projects, amounts between US dollars 1,000 and 5,000 total budget. So the total budget of $60,000. Next slide. So I want to share some of the few examples of the RIRO projects which have been supported by Global Refugee Youth Network. We have the mental health family based in Kampala, Uganda, which is running workshops on menstrual health and hygiene for adolescent girls to help them understand and take care of their bodies and to stay in school. We have Revoyage based in Morocco, next slide, which is running activities to promote social cohesion and protection with a focus on child mothers, SGBV survivors, and ethnic minorities. I am sharing, I wanted to share our link, but I'll first ask the producer, maybe I'll share on where, so that those who feel like they can learn, they want to learn more what is Green doing, and all the groups who have been supported by Green at the local level in different countries, you can learn from our website, direct website of Green. So what we learned about what is needed to advance localization. First, its coordination and collaboration is really important to advance localization. The second, we must recognize that local community groups are doing very well work, important work at the local level. Third, we need to listen to them and support the work they are doing. Fourth, we need to give them a chance to express their ideas, not dictate projects ideas to them. We need to make space for them to design the projects based on the needs in their community. They need these opportunities to build themselves. And finally, we must look at refugee young people as positive agents of change who can have a special role in their communities. So I want to leave my last question to the participant, to everyone here, to share some of the comments. What are some good practices amongst local refugee youth-led organizations that we could scale up? You can use still the Mentimeter. They share the Mentimeter in the chat box. So you can write your answer there, how to scale the local organizations, that how could we scale it up in your context or in your community. Thank you so much. Back to you, Laura. Yeah.
Thank you, Faridah. If you keep your camera on, you can just comment on some answers that are coming in.
Yes,
funding.
More funding to the to local actors or local led organizations. Yes, that is very important. I hear simplify procedures to provide financial support to refugee-led organizations. Yes, also it's very important. we need a simple way to support the refugee youth-led organization, and also raising awareness about mental health and providing counseling. Very true. That is all. The answers are very good, because I remember about my experience. I was missing the mental health and providing counseling in my journey to become who I am today. So, and also there is another one. Oh my God, someone can help me to translate. Also the peer-to-peer
Knowledge
approach.
exchange.
Peer-to-peer approach. Also, it's very important in this to scale up the lead organization, youth-led organization. Thank you very much, everyone, to participate. And also, I heard another one, coaching. Yes. All the answers are good and are right. So thank you so much, everyone, to participate. Back to you, Laura.
Thank you, Faridah. Thank you. And I will pass to Riyad to lead us in a quick activity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laura, and thank you, Faridah. Very interesting, and I look forward to hearing more about your experience in breakout rooms. Now we have also 2 questions on Menti. You should have the link in the chat. So the first question would be, who should take leadership role in ensuring localization in humanitarian context? So in your opinion, who should take the leadership? Donors, UN organizations, INGOs, national NGOs, or community-based NGOs or networks? Obviously, there's no right answer here. So according to your views, your experience, your thoughts, what do you think about this? Is it good? We have our first 3 answers. So feel free to choose one. I see some voting for national NGOs in the chat. Donors, we'll give it like another 10 seconds. Cool. Wait, so we have a tie here between donors, national NGOs, and UN agencies, and community-based NGOs. Well, community-based NGOs now has the lead. Cool. Very good. This is also something that maybe you can keep in mind to use in the breakout rooms. But now the harder question. This is the who question. Now we will go to the what question. And again, you can find in the chat the links. The next question would be, what actions can these leaders take to ensure localization? So now we know who you think should take the role of leadership, but what can they do? So maybe you can write donors, and then what kind of action they can do, or you can write like local NGOs and what kind of action they can do to mainstream and ensure the localization process throughout the humanitarian action. So provide technical capacity to CPOs and national NGOs. I assume this should be done by international NGOs, maybe, if I'm understanding right. Transfer power. It would be great if you can write donors or who should do that. Donors and UN and international NGOs need to be accountable for facilitating localization. Couldn't agree more. INGOs to ensure equal partnership with CPOs and national organizations. Great. UN agencies to provide a platform for inclusive coordination and accountability. Very great suggestions. If we can scroll down a little bit. Donors to simplify bureaucracy to something. Can you scroll down a bit, please? Yes. So simplify bureaucracy to facilitate access to funding for NGOs. So those are great suggestions. Please keep, if you didn't finish yet, please keep them coming on the link. And I don't want to take more time of our content leads. So back to you, Laura, for our next presentation. Thank you, everyone, for sharing.
Wonderful, thank you. I think a lot of those responses deserve some more conversation. So hopefully we can have some spaces facilitated to do that, but we'll definitely be sharing anything that comes through and saving it. So I am pleased to introduce our second presenter today, our content lead who's with us from Venezuela. Belkys Herrera was born in Venezuela, and she's worked in the educational area for over 20 years. She's now working with World Vision International as the Technical Coordination of Protection in Faith-Based Contexts lead, and she's working with faith-based organizations in 7 states of Venezuela, supporting them in their work with the most vulnerable populations. And we look forward to hearing about the creative arts work today. Welcome, Belkys.
The interpreter apologizes, but there's no sound.
Hello, Belkys. We cannot hear you.
Aló, ¿me escuchan?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes.
Can you speak a little closer into the microphone?
Sí, estoy hablando un poquito más pegado.
Yes, I'm speaking a bit closer. Can you please confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you, Belkys.
Muy bien. Bien, muchas gracias. Buenas tardes para
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Belkys Herrera, and I'm here to share with you from World Vision the beautiful work we've been doing in Venezuela with children and adolescents through an experience of psychosocial help work that uses art, which is called first aid art in faith-based organization. We have been working with this group of children and adolescents, and this is the experience we come to share with you today. We'd like to share you on the screen one of the things that made World Vision want to work with vulnerable children. These are the statistics that through the last few years, not just due to the pandemic, but through the situation in the country, have been very high. At least the increase of mood disorders in children and adolescents, which increased in 39%. There's also an increase of 112% of the risk of suicidal risk with children. And there are organizations in Venezuela, national ones such as Cpos, which is well known in Venezuela, that prevents that we need to be alert, not just for the risk of adolescents and children. To this, we have to add that the number of children and adolescents that are left behind in 2021, we had 930,000 of them. And for this year, we think that it will be over 1 million. So that you can know our experience, we invite you to share the following video with us. This is a quote from one of the people running the workshops where they said that it was a very revealing experience for children to talk about their emotional health They realized they were overloaded, stressed, and that was hindering their communication. Next slide, please. Those spaces were spaces for them to reflect, analyze, and observe themselves. They started a communication process, started to speak freely through this methodology of first aid art. Please, next slide, please. After this video, I would like to share with you the description of our experience. As we said at the beginning, we were present in 7 states in Venezuela with faith-based organizations that through the training of leaders in those 18 faith-based organizations, we were able to organize workshops for children and adolescents through this first aid art, or as we call it in Venezuela, first aid for the heart. These leaders were trained in awareness raising. Siguiente, next slide, please. Awareness raising on channels of hope, which introduce leaders to the rights to protect children and safeguarding policies, and also psychosocial support training with this first aid art methodology. We now reply for everyone who participates, what is first aid art? It's a first aid methodology for the heart, which seeks to provide more resilience and to reduce adverse experiences due to trauma, toxic stress, or any other bad experience. It's done through the training of leaders in the responders activities or first aiders who are the ones leading these workshops. And these are used through very easy to handle signs. Those signs. Next slide, please. Those are recognize, respond, and refer. Recognize is to be able to see in our body and on our activities signs that tells us that we're overloaded or stressed, pain in or tense neck, pain in your stomach, etc. This is giving us a first sign that something is wrong and that we're not feeling well enough. Then we have the response, which is to be able to show participants not just to have this worry that something is happening to me, but also to find actions to solve. And finally, to refer, which is to teach participants that many situations we are not able to respond by ourselves. And it's very healthy to be able to seek help and support in other people that can help us to come out of this situation. This is very basic with children and teenagers because they tend to stay within themselves and to carry on their worries, but not to find the answers. This is why this methodology was so important and positive in the experience we have lived in the country.
As I was saying, it's a methodology that is specifically based in activities related to art, drawing, music, singing, series of activities that are very dynamic and help young people to escape the routine and their worries and to self-care and self-regulate themselves. Next slide, next. Okay, so our reach was 337 children and adolescents in our country. Next slide, please. From these 337 children and adolescents, 53% were girls and 48% were boys from those who participated with us. So 48%. Next slide, please. So, because this methodology is a methodology that is learned by getting closer to it, we were asking you to have a pen and paper with you. We would like you to do a very simple activity with us we're just gonna have some music in the background, and we're gonna invite you in just 1 minute to draw a place that is a peaceful place for you. So if the production team can help me with the music, I can count the minutes so that you can draw. And in the end, we're just gonna tell you what to do with that drawing. If you could go ahead, team, thank you.
Bien, se nos está acabando el minuto.
So we're running out of time now.
Aquellos que ya han terminado de dibujar su lugar de
So
paz,
those of you who have finished drawing their peaceful place, and thinking that we have our cameras on, if you could show it in your cameras. You don't have to be an artist, it's just to be able to do this wonderful activity together.
gracias Laura, te ama.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much. Or Riyad, whoever is playing the audio.
Si pudieran por favor escribir en el chat.
If you could please write in the chat a word who connected you with this peaceful place that represents that peaceful place, and we can read those words, just one word that for you represents and peaceful and is significant for you. And I will read those words out. So I can read you through the chat. Family, silence, home, nature, we connect to nature, of course. Rejuvenation, family again, music, love. Thank you very much to you all. So the goal of this activity is so that we can experience what our children and adolescents experience in this activity through art, like drawing, painting, listening to soft music. What we can listen to at home, our favorite music, disconnect us from stress and all the problems, and disconnects us from our traumas and these adverse realities that we confront, and takes us to a special place that our stress levels, our anxiety levels, those things that threaten our mental health can reduce themselves, and we can reach these peaceful moments. These were tools that we gave to the youngsters, and we wanted to share with you. Thank you for participating. So next slide, please. And finally, we'd like to close our presentation with the lessons that we learned. First of all, we would like to talk about 2 testimonies that were great for us. More than 300 young people tended to in this country. There was a girl from Asian descent, and she was studying in the school, all through the primary and secondary school, but she never made any friends or talked to anyone because she was always feeling threatened and rejected because of her condition, but her teachers told her to go to these workshops of psychosocial support, and then she made friends, and she saw that she wasn't being rejected for being Asian and for looking differently. And so after 8 years of studying in the same school, she had a group of peers and she felt included and not rejected. And another testimony was with a boy of 12 years old, and he took part of a workshop. He didn't have friends because he was very aggressive. Their family went to Peru looking for a better life, and he was left behind with his grandmother, and his sadness was reflected in his aggressiveness, and he was always using swear words and beating people up. When he participated in the workshops and he felt the love and care of people in the workshops and from the other children, he was becoming less aggressive and was talking about the sadness. His parents were immigrants, and he felt really alone. When the workshops were over, he wanted to attend more workshops because in the end, he got rid of this pain inside his heart. And these are just two stories of all the stories that we could tell here. There are testimonies, and we have learned a lot from their experiences. And finally, what we can say as lessons learned, first of all, these first 8 art workshops have allowed us to become closer to the mental health need of children and adolescents, to see it as a priority, and this motivates us to carry on working on this. We also see that this methodology is very easy, simple, and reaches our hearts, and is a very easy dynamic for adolescents and also for other age groups like older people. And with the help of God, we hope that we can carry on this work. And also, we were seeing as part of what the faith-based organizations were telling us, that just one level of this dynamic is not enough. We need more levels, more workshops that can help people to manage their mental health, especially in Venezuela. And I would like to close my presentation with a phrase about what we learn with these children and adolescents. They value more to be taken into account than everything else that you can offer them. They feel alone and ignored. That's why World Vision fights, so that they don't feel alone and they don't feel that they are not listened to be able to give them these spaces. And with the help of God, we will carry on our work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Belkys. We appreciate your presentation and the relaxing activity. I'm going to move straight to our third content lead, Abba Yusuf Tijjani. Abba Yusuf is the Executive Director of Grow Strong Foundation and the State Coordinator of Youth Network of the Lake Chad region. He's highly motivated for societal change, and we look forward to what you have to say today. Welcome.
Yes, yeah, thank you very much, Laura, for this beautiful introduction. Hello, colleagues. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. As Laura clearly explained, I'm just here to share a lifetime experience and a field-based experience on putting localization in practice. That is looking at our community-based child protection intervention focusing in Northeast Nigeria. Next slide, please. Yes, so basically the aim of this presentation is for me to demonstrate how localization has impacted our work in child protection and humanitarian action intervention. That is the basic aim of this presentation. So let's move to the next slide. All right, so before I begin my presentation, so I would like you to make your input on the Mentimeter, which I believe is already on the chat box, on how localization has impacted the work of your organization in the context now you work. Please keep answering and make your input. There is no right or wrong answers. So the Mentimeter is on the chat box. If you cannot able to find the Mentimeter, please write it on the chat box. We can also read there. So your input, please. And we just have 1 minute for this exercise. So let your input keep coming. How has localization impacted the work of your organization? This is for whether you are NGO, you work with NGO or INGO or UN organizations. Yeah, one colleague says we didn't achieve real localization in my context. That is very good. It's a good lesson learned. So you are here, you may acquire some knowledge and to see how localization has worked for others. Then there is reverse capacity strengthening when it comes to localization. You have agreed on that. And it has helped in building our capacity. Yes, I believe many national NGOs can testify to that, as well as some international organizations and even UN in some contexts. So let's look at more. Please let your answer keep coming. There is no right or wrong response. Please keep responding. I'm also checking the chat. A colleague also said it has impacted the work of our organization, reaching out more vulnerable communities. And then we recently did an internal study on localization to see how we can begin to shape our organization in regard to this year. I think most of your points are almost similar with that of ours. And there is one point just commenting, rethinking partnership here is a very welcome idea. So now, keep making input. I think we'll all take note of all the input and also work on it. And then, but before then, let's look at how it impacted our work. Let me share our experience now with regard to localization. Next slide, please. So before I begin about localization, let me briefly give an overview of the organization that I work with. Growstrong Foundation was a youth-led organization which was established in 2018 in response to protection of women as well as children in the context of the insurgency that is affecting the people of Northeast Nigeria. Notwithstanding, we also provided coordination. We also provide coordination support in this context, as well as supporting the role of CPSs and other sector or various task forces operating under the child protection working group. And our journey for localization started since back then in 2019, where we feel that our strategy needs to be improved and we really need to work on the ground by again with regard to localization, looking at those 4 principles. So let's move to the next slide now. So now let's look at how localization in practice. But however, if you need to know more about GSF, please visit our website. It will be shared in the chat box and you'll see some of the interesting work now we do. So in terms of localization in practice, so GSF usually focus on a strategy looking at 2 main focus on mentorship. We believe mentorship works and everybody says mentorship. That's why we say, okay, let's our mentorship focus on technical capacity strengthening as well as institutional capacity training. Apart from some workshops or trainings that we receive from various organizations in strengthening capacity effort where we are supported by the global CPOR, the Alliance for Child Protection Minority Actors, Street Child, UNICEF, IOM, international NGOs, and most importantly, some international consultants who assist us or who we reach out for pro bono services in strengthening our systems. So let's look at the next slide and to see what we have achieved so far. So now, in terms of the technical capacity, we focus on 2 main headings. One is on mentorship, and then the other is on the short-time trainings and workshop. Our mentorship program goes in the sense of like some we are engaged for 18 months on the coordination skills, which we are being mentored with the support of the Street Child as well as UNICEF, to ensure that our capacity is enhanced on coordination skills, looking at child protection in humanitarian settings. Then we also receive a 9-month ongoing mentorship in implementing community-based reintegration programs for children that are formally associated with the non-state armed groups. Then interestingly, we go ahead and work with the Alliance, the Global Alliance for Child Protection, on a 3-month program that is working across sectors, looking at the implementation of the Pillar 4 of the Child Protection Minimum Standard. They supported also. We work hand in hand to see that that standard is being implemented in Northeast Nigeria, and we are able to achieve that. And then we participated in the series of different. Within 3 months, we participated on a research, basically focused on localization impact in partnership with Street Child as well as the CPAOR. These are all ongoing mentorship which we are being supported. And then coming to some of the short-term training we received from various organizations, we received a training on monitoring and evaluation, and as well as learning trainings, proposal writing, report writing, protection mainstreaming, which are all being supported by Street Child, UNICEF, and some various international organizations such as TP, the Transcultural Psychosocial Organization, IUM, among others organizations. So our protection mainstreaming cuts across all CP issues, not limited to case management, PSS, or safeguarding. We receive this training on a go basis. Next slide, please. So let's look at our institutional capacity training where we focus. Basically, we focus on management and governance. So in terms of our management, GSF also have a serious mentorship, a very hard mentorship for a 6-month on financial management system, as well as 3-month programs on human resource management system, and then 3-month program on resource mobilization and planning. These are all being received through a pro bono consultant, which we reach out and they are willing to assist without paying more. So, and also we receive a mentorship on NGO governance, how do organization functions, and we also receive that, and this, and then and other various light training that we receive on the institutional capacity strengthening. So let's look at the outcome of this training. Please, next slide, please. So as a result of these various mentorship and capacity building initiatives, I'm happy to inform you that as of now, GSF has a very well-structured board of trustees that have a clear roadmap on what to engage and how to do their duty, whereby they develop series of bylaws. They participated in approving our policies. They come every 3 months at a quarterly basis for their meeting and approve series of notes as well as a policy for the organizations. And interestingly, we have a very sound financial management system. We now move from the normal way of financing to an innovative one where we engage the use of QuickBook. To an extent, UNICEF has created GSF as a low-risk partner, as well as we can easily access funding from OCHA through the Nigerian Humanitarian Fund and other funding from international organizations, which anytime they come for capacity assessment, we mostly rated as low partner, and they end up giving us for easy partnership, and we manage their grant in a very good manner. And then we increase our partnership. In 2019, we only have one partner, which is a national NGO. But however, I'm happy to inform you as of today, we have more than 5, we have like 5 partners, 2 international organizations, 2 as well as 3 UN plus a national organization. In fact, a pool of national NGOs which are willing to partner with us as of today. So, and then we receive increased fundings. Yeah, this is one way that we are really very much proud of. GSF just started in less than $10,000 as an annual as of 2018, but as of today, I'm happy to inform you that we manage more than $300,000 across various projects that we have partnership with donors as well as UN and national organization. Yes, our programmatic capacity absolutely improved. Now our staffs are being engaged to train even some international organization train staffs, high NGOs, and even some national NGOs. We train them on child protection, information management, and other basic trainings where we intend that, we pass that capacity because of our enhanced capacity. And then in terms of our reach through our community-based initiative, we reach more than 30,000 beneficiaries as of today, and we are still counting. So Now, GSF, as of 2018, we were just in one locations, one state operating, which is Borno State, and in just one location. But as of today, we expand our capacity to 3 locations, 3 states in the region. We are operating in Borno, Adamawa, Yobe, which are far in the Northeast, as well as 3 communities, 13 communities in the Northeast. Next slide, please. So the success continues. We host the Child Protection Co-Lead, and we have been leading a consortium of national NGOs, and we publish 3 sub-research on localization in partnership with 3 Child and ODI2, which are currently being used by the donors to make decisions. And we lead even the domestication of child rights in the state with the collaboration of the Borno Ministry government. Next slide, please. So intrinsically, of all this achievement, we find out that we have some challenges, and that challenge we summarize it or make it headed into 3 main challenges. One is the unmarked funding, which is very hard for national NGO and is still largely restricted project-based, and GSF is still depending on project-based partnership, which is not sustaining. And we have high staff turnover because our trained staff are usually poached by international organizations due to basically the staff motivations that they have far much than the national organization. Next slide, please. So I have like 4 recommendations for that. So we have the provision of unrestricted funds for national NGO can go a very long way in strengthening our system, and then creation of multi-year and flexible funding with national organizations. In fact, this is one thing that if donors can put it into use, it will really go a long way, because most of our partnership is 1 year or less. Some are even less than a year. What if we have 5-year funding? What if we have 5-year partnership? So it will be a very good way. And then increase innovation to staff retention for national NGOs, continuous support for diversifying resource mobilization, as well as investment in institutional capacity will really go a long way in developing a system of national NGO. And with this, I believe we will have a better response and easy access to services by various beneficiaries. So next slide. Yeah, before I conclude my presentation, I would love to also hear from you on what are the opportunities for using localization to enhance your work in your various organizations, the context now you work. So the Mentimeter is there in the chat box. Colleagues, make your input. Let's get more of an idea to see that, yeah, the ground again come to success, and to see that, yeah, localization will start taking the leadership and other stuff. So let me hear your input. We have 1 minute for this, please. 1 minute. You can use the chat box. I think the Mentimeter is working now. If you cannot access, you can also use the chat box, please. We just have 1 minute. Yes, I believe I have touched most of the points. We have enhanced capacity strengthening can work. Yeah, I agree on that. And then knowledge sharing, yes, I think that will also go a very long way. Yes, what are opportunities? Leadership, your commitment, yeah, reach deeper location, increase strengthening sustainability, and enhance capacity. Yes, this can go a very long way if we are able to put it together. So make your more input. I believe we keep recording it and to ensure that, yeah, we shape in the CPO strategy. So I believe at this point, if I'm happy to take questions, but if there are no questions, over to you, Laura. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. And over to Riyad.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yusuf. It was great to hear from all of our content leads, Faridah, Belkys, and Yusuf. Thank you very much. Very interesting indeed. And I look forward to continue the conversation in the breakout rooms. We wanted to do a small game together, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So we will jump immediately to the Q&A. So now all of you have the chance to ask some questions to our content leads. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. If it's a general question, then I will choose whom to ask to. If not, you can just write the name, either Faridah, Yusuf, or Belkys. And if you would like to ask the question like live, feel free to raise your hand, and you can ask the question directly. So we will give it a minute. So maybe until we get some questions, maybe I can ask you, start with you, Faridah. Like in humanitarian context, usually we tend to see some, like we see that programs like lean towards younger children usually, but not towards youth. So we lack lots of youth programs, initiatives, support. Maybe I'm talking from the Syrian response. We see lots of funding for early age and children in general, but not for youth. What can we as like CB sector do to again like support youth more and push donors and international NGOs to focus more in youth in the field and like in localization context to support like their inputs as youth into localization, and have them always like present when they are like allocating funding, like designing projects for the upcoming time or for the future. And can you hear us, Faridah?
I'm sorry, because I was not allowed to unmute myself, so I was trying to unmute myself. Thank you, Riyad. For us as Green, what we see exactly is the local actors, and that's how Green, we are more connected with the local actors, because children and young people are working together hand in hand. And because when you see child protection is again the youth protection and child protection is hand in hand. And I think what the international actors, because the local actors are looking forward to the international actors, what they can do to support the local actors is working together, work hand in hand, not to designing for them projects, because local actors, they already have the designed projects. They just need to support them, because sometimes also is that hard to support localization when you come up with your designed project to the local communities. And that is where sometimes things fail. You can come to me when I have already the designed projects, which I know that I have skills in that project. So when you want to divert me, that means I can say yes, but I'm not going to do it perfectly to support children and young people at the local community. And also they can, another thing which I want to say is to connect with the communities, to engage the communities. What is the communities? When I talk about the communities, I think about homes, families, because sometimes these children, they come from a certain family. When you leave out the families or the community, that means I don't think that's any kind of project. So to try to strengthen the activities or the projects local communities they have, and also to capacity build them, to coordinate, to work together hand in hand, and also to engage the families or the homes from where young children are coming from. And that is what Green we are trying to do, we are doing at the local communities, not to left everyone, but we have to engage everyone in the communities And also another thing which I want to raise, you know, the international actors or the national actors, when it comes back to the local actors, like the participants raised the points, the important points. The local actors or the community led organizations, you find some of them, they don't have bank account. They don't have a proper documentation for their activities or their projects. And then when you look in the context of the national actors and the international actors, they are looking directly forward for the bank accounts, the proper documents, which is not available for the local actors. So they need to sit down and to see all of that, to work together and to see how they can help the local actors or the lead organization, the local lead organization for the proper child protection. Let me end there, maybe another person can come in. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. Let me check with Belkys. Are you still with us? There is a question for you. And I just want to make sure that you're still with us and can answer that. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So one question
hear.
for you. Yeah, one question for you. It's written in the chat. Is how did you deal with the migration of the young people during the processes and during the process, and if the young people organized themselves at the end of the process?
Bueno, primeramente, los jóvenes
Firstly, young people were not those who organized the activities, but they were the leaders from the faith-based organizations who selected groups. The interpreter apologizes, but the sound is, the number was higher than our goal. And those leaders, once they had trained, they called vulnerable youth who we detected had migrant parents or had special situations with difficult mental health problems. And they were helped. When it comes to the migrations, all communities were included because it's a very important reality that is taking place in Venezuela currently. And it's one of the things that teenagers feel this neglect, feeling alone, that are left in the hands of third parties, not having the strength and the safety and security of being cared for by their parents. So one of the aspects and the topics that were handled during the workshops, these first aid art workshops.
Thank you so much, Belkys.
Ayudar a los jóvenes ir a buscar, decir en las familias. Bueno,